All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Business Roundtable podcast. I'm excited to have returning guests and a new guest with us tonight. For those of you that don't know, I'm David Carr of Steward Your Business, focusing on organizational health, team alignment, and one of our topics is going to be about that tonight. Bill, would you introduce yourself to the audience, please?
Yeah, I am Bil Hatch. I am a leadership guide, currently developing a series of books on leadership and a method to bring teams and communities together to prop up the leader and create a new superpowered community. Haha, I stole your line, Mo. I also do a series of podcasts under the banner of Bald Spots Productions, and which includes interviews, roundtables, and studies.
Awesome, Bill. Glad to have you back. And we have one of our returning panel members, Doc C. Welcome back, Doc C.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. Curtis Cochran here. We are primary business consultants. We work in the mergers and acquisitions arena. We help build businesses to make them not only profitable and or sellable, but enjoyable to run for the business owner. And I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Absolutely. And we got a new special guest here, Maurice Evans. Mo, would you introduce yourself, Mo, to the audience?
Hello, everybody. I am glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me on here. First time guest. How's it go? Long time listener, first time guest?
Yeah. Yep.
First time caller. That's what it is. Thank you. Appreciate it. I am Maurice W. Evans, CEO of Powernality, and we do personal development. We do speaking, we do training, we do consulting, corporate trainings as well. And we help people discover their superpowers so that they can activate their super self. Basically, what we do is help you understand how your own personality works and how you can use that to work for you. So we believe everybody is supposed to be themselves and that the best thing you can ever be is you. But it's not just a personality, it's your superpower. That's what we get excited about. So I can't wait to talk about that tonight.
Absolutely, Mo. Thank you so much. And I've been fortunate to work with Mo, and actually have been certified with Mo through Powernality as a trainer and coach. And I'm super excited to. I've been working with him since last year, and I've been super excited about continuing that. And that's why I wanted to bring Mo on specifically because of his expertise and background here. And I'll let Mo go in to deeper dive, because our topic tonight we're going to discuss is, what do you do when you have a person on your team and they're in the wrong role or position? So there's misalignment in the team, and this inevitably happens. And all of us, I know, have dealt with this at some point. And so I love, Mo, if you wouldn't mind, before we dive deeper in this, but with this kind of understanding that we're going to be dealing with tonight, give us a little, maybe a little more taste of Powernality and where you've seen this, come up, this challenge of team alignment and people in the right place, and then how Powernality is involved there.
Team alignment, that's the thing, right? That's the holy grail. How can we get everybody on the same page, even though they're all coming from different backgrounds, different perspectives, different levels of training, different levels of education? How do we get everybody in harmony? How do we get a congruent messaging? How do we get people to basically realize they're on the same team? What do we do when there's that clash, right? We get that personality conflict thing happening, that I don't get along with you and you don't get along with me. And there's not really a good reason why we're just not vibing together, even though we are still in the same tribe. So where does that come from? What do we do with that? I've seen this in churches. I've seen this in government. I've seen this in corporations. And it's a part of the dynamic of being human, right? We're all humans. We're all dealing with this concept that we all have our way. We all have our perspective. And it gets frustrating if someone is a leader with an organization and they see that their team is in a constant state of disharmony. And so what we've done at Powernality is we've kind of gone below the surface. A lot of people are familiar with the personality assessments, and they're familiar with some of the things that people believe have to do with personality, but we're not dealing with personality with Powernality. What we deal with is temperament. We want to get to the core of who you are. Turns out that you were actually born with some inherent traits. Turns out that you were actually born with some source characteristics within you. Your brainstem determines how you perceive things, and it determines how you choose to respond to things. So if we can understand who we are, and I mean, I can understand who I am, and you can understand who you are, why you see things the way you see things, and that the way you see things is not necessarily wrong or incorrect. It's just different. It's just different than what someone else might see. It's just different than the way someone else might perceive. We're looking at the exact same thing, but we perceive it differently. And our decision making on the approach to it is different, right? We feel like there's something different that needs to happen. And that's where the disagreement comes in. Because for you, it's a threat. For me, it's an opportunity. Right?
Mhm.
For
Yeah.
you, it's an opportunity to speak up. For me, it's an opportunity to be quiet. For you, it's an opportunity to take action. For me, it's an opportunity to sit back and think and evaluate. For you, the objective being accomplished is what's most important. For me, how it impacts the people is what's most important. Neither one of us are incorrect, but because we're on opposite sides, we're going to have a tendency to now be in a place where we're disagreeing and probably eventually becoming very disagreeable with each other and with our team.
Mhm.
And so there's fallout from that.
Right.
How do we avoid this friction? How do we avoid from bumping heads? How do we stop this challenge that we're facing? What's more important? What's the right approach? What's the right assessment? And it turns out that a lot of times there is no right or wrong assessment, but what there is a different perspective of the assessment, right? It's the blind men trying to describe the elephant. One's at the tail, one's at the legs, one's at the trunk. They're describing totally different things. Oh no, I think this is like some kind of snake. No. This is a big giant tree. No. It's a little wiry, wispy thing. Which one is incorrect?
Mhm.
They're all correct from their perspective. And so the evidence that they have has given them a set of facts, but their facts are not necessarily the whole truth. And so we tend to stand on the evidence of the facts that we've been able to ascertain, even though we have not gathered the complete body of evidence. But even gathering the complete body of evidence, some people say, oh, it's an elephant, it's so cute. Others will say, hey, that's a wild animal. Let's back off and leave it alone. Somebody else will say, hey, those tusks would look good on my wall. Right? Like it's the perspective is going to be different, and it's okay to have a difference in opinion. So how do we learn to work together so that we together can be on mission, so that we together can accomplish the vision of our tribe, of our organization, of our team? And that's what we look to help people understand. That the reality is, it's not just a perspective, it's understanding what we call your superpowers, the strengths of your own personality. Because that's what we need you to bring to bear in this situation. We need you to bring that superpower that you have. And when you activate your superpower in an authentic way, when you're expressing your super self authentically, then everybody gets a benefit from that. If your superpower is repressed, now there's mental anguish, now there's distress, now there is friction. But if I can understand what my superpowers are, then I know how to be in the right situation, how to be in the right position. I'm going to say no to those things that are not a good fit for me. I'm going to say yes to those things that are. If I'm the Incredible Hulk and you're looking for the Flash, it doesn't matter how much I get on the treadmill. I'm not going to run any faster, but I'm still going to be really good at smashing. But you're going to be mad because you wanted me to deliver it quickly, but instead I smashed it. Or vice versa. If you need the Hulk to come smash through something and I'm just running around really, really fast because I'm the Flash, then that's not going to work. So a lot of times people are misplaced with their superpower, or they're not aware of their superpower, or others are influencing them to use their superpower incorrectly. But when I understand my superpower, then I can recognize and respect the superpowers of others better, which means harmony on the team.
All right, Mo, you laid it out for us here. I think we're all going to have some questions for you here. I appreciate you putting that out here. And I'm going to go around a little bit here because I want Doc C and Bill to, I think we want to dig into here, like you laid it out, Mo, kind of a place for us to go in understanding this misalignment and just, what happens when we're misaligned? What does that look like in the organization? And Doc C, I'll start with you because you're dealing with mergers, acquisitions. You're dealing with these companies that are trying to be sold, acquired. You're looking to buy a company, and when you have misalignment in there, and especially as Mo has laid it out here, what are some of the things you're seeing? Some of the challenges there. People, like Mo was saying, people seeing things differently and motivated different ways.
Well, there's so much information that Mo just laid out there for us. There's chaos in every organization. I always use sports analogies, sports teams. You wonder why and how certain teams become champions and some do not. Well, inside the organization, inside even the winners, there's turmoil, there's chaos. So what is it that is common, like a common thread? You mentioned superpowers. You could talk about Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, the Celtics, and Michael Jordan. The list goes on. But in their organization, within their team structure, there was fights, chaos, all kinds of things. So I think that what we're trying to get at here, correct me if I'm wrong, is the platform where all of us within an organization can reveal as Mo said, our superpowers. Because if we don't allow the organization to see my greatness, because I'm holding back because I don't want to upset, the culture, well, that's a problem. So what is the common thread, the common idea that an organization or even a sports team, I know a sports team, the bottom line is this: do we win? And if we win, there's not a big problem. But when we lose, everybody starts pointing the fingers. And that's exactly what happens. I've played sports all my life. I know exactly what that's all about. And I'm sure you guys have too. But my whole point is, what is the platform that an organization, a safe platform? Now they call it probably HR, but there are platforms all around the organization, depending upon how large it is. That would be my question to not only Mo, but even David and Bill is what are we looking at for that platform that I can reveal my superpower?
Well, I'll let Bill chime in here too. Is thinking about this, Powernality is a platform, and we're glad to have Mo here presented, there's been a lot of research and other thing in here, but I think the idea is, we're all trying to understand that. And as we understand ourselves, like you said, Mo, where we both fit in, whatever that platform is, the language, then we can get in the right spot. Bill, just thoughts on kind of what we've been talking about so far tonight?
No, absolutely not. No, of
You have
course.
nothing to say.
No, I've just been sitting here. No, there's definitely something to be said for completeness of understanding. Mo was talking about the elephant in the room, and how each person might see something different, some different aspect of it. And if that aspect isn't useful, then the understanding becomes incomplete, and it can't be used. So sometimes you have to switch around and try it from a different angle. I've tried several different angles in business. In my misbegotten youth of trying to find my place in the world. And it's given me a look at different aspects of business, so that I can see what's going. So I can see an elephant, and I know how to eat one. And so taking a different look. One of my favorite analogies is actually the moon. If you look at the moon and it is, did I blank out there for a second? If you look at the moon,
Yep,
when it's near
you're
the
back.
horizon,
You're back.
near buildings and trees and such, it looks enormous. But when it's in the middle of the sky, way up high, it looks tiny. But if you're looking at the moon near the horizon, if you want to see it as it really is, you need to change your perspective. Turn around, look at it, bend over halfway, and look at it between your legs upside down, and you will see it as it really is.
Mm-hmm.
So take a different perspective.
Yeah, it is important to get perspective and clarity. And I think there's different. I don't think there's one platform, Doxy, about this, but I do think it's important.
As the Dead Poet Society taught us.
Oh, there we go. We lost you there for a minute,
As the
Bill.
Dead Poet Society taught us, stand up on your desk. Oh, okay. Just take a different perspective. Take a different look at the way the world is, and you'll see quickly what it really is.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll be the first one to admit that I don't want everybody to be like me. I guarantee you that.
Right.
I want diversity. I want diversity throughout an organization. I want people to tell us the direction, or at least give us their opinion or ideas on the direction that they need to go. They have to be assertive, and they have to. I guess Mo would probably be the one to talk about this, is to allow them to have the confidence to actually do that. A lot of people have these superpowers that they lack the confidence to actually bring it to the table, because there's always some individual that likes to talk all the time, and they talk with authority, and so a lot of people don't like to actually tell them to be quiet and here let's talk, whatever. But they lack a little bit of confidence in that regard, and I think that's probably what Mo is referring to, is finding your superpower and letting it go.
Yeah, actually, Mo, can you expand a little bit here just on what Curtis is talking about? In the, in Powernality, we talk about the presented behavior versus the preferred behavior, and people present a certain way because that's the way they think they should be, right? And I got to be in this position, I'm going to present this way. But by doing that, they're really not going to be performing the best they could be in misalignment. They're like, I could do this role, and talk a little bit about what Doxy is saying, and saying, hey, getting them into their preferred role, and how that, if they get them in the right alignment, talk a little bit about understanding they're misaligned and getting the impact of that misalignment if they stay in that presented behavior style. Go ahead, Mo. You're on mute. You're muted. Unmute you. There we go.
Absolutely.
Unmuted.
So
there you go.
One of the biggest challenges for people is to understand that majority of people are presenting their behavior style. That's what personality is. It's surface traits. It's acquired characteristics. And so their environment oftentimes forces them to behave in a way that is incongruent with who they truly are. Because this is what the job requires. Or this is what the culture within the organization requires. And so some of those people that Doxy was speaking on, that they are afraid to speak up, it's not necessarily that they're afraid to speak up. It's just that they are not outwardly expressive. They're more inwardly thoughtful. And that maybe the few times they have spoken up, they were dismissed, or they don't feel safe in that environment that they're in. So usually it's going to be one, because they are not that type of a person that they speak up. There's one type, one half of the 4 quadrants that we look at, that they prefer to ask questions. The other half prefers to tell. One half prefers to sit and think about things, and they question and they ask, should I say something? And the other half says, I must say something. And so usually in the environments that people find themselves in, they're rewarded for speaking up. But if that is not their true temperament, then it becomes awkward for them, right? It becomes a challenge for them. It becomes something that they're not clear that they're going to be able to do without repercussions. Personality is a result of what the expectations and consequences are outside of you. And so a person who may not even be the type of person who's comfortable speaking up. We use inwardly thoughtful because introvert, extrovert is so dynamic, and most people will tie that to personality and see themselves sometimes one way or another. That's why ambivert came out. But inwardly thoughtful people prefer not to speak up ever. This is not their thing. And so they prefer to process. They prefer to take time. They're going to ask questions when it's in a safe environment. If it's not a safe environment, then they're not going to speak up. And so then it's the responsibility of leadership to accommodate people. I use the example, let's say you're at a situation. It's like, hey, anybody who wants to come up to the stage and speak can. The microphone's open. It's an open mic. And so then there's a person there in a wheelchair who says, I'd like to speak. And you say to them, yeah, sure. Make your way on up to the stage. But you got to get up 6 steps, and there's no ramp, and the mic is fixed. That person is going to have a very difficult time. That's assimilation. What you need is accommodation, right? Accommodation instead is going to present a situation where those who are inwardly thoughtful are actually going to be more comfortable stating whatever it is that's going on. In fact, a lot of times you have to go and ask them. They're not going to speak up. If you don't ask them, they're probably not going to say anything. That's a part of the leadership element of understanding when you have, like Doxy says, you don't want everybody to be like you, but knowing that not everybody is like you in a diverse environment means that what would be intuitive for you, your perspective of how you are perceiving things and your thoughts on how you approach things, is not going to be the same way that others perceive and think is the appropriate action. That's where the challenge comes in. Leadership creating an environment that is conducive for all of the temperaments.
Yeah. So So Mo, on along that, then I think, knowing that we want to have these different voices and how, is what's, and this is for Doxy too, what are the strategies that, how can we be proactive in accommodating? And when we accommodate, sometimes it still isn't the right position. Like they've adjusted because they presented a style, Mo, for example, to try and position, but it's not really the best fit for them. And if we have them become aware and understand that, then we would say, okay, we were accommodating you, meaning like, how do we get you into the right position? Maybe the one you're in right now. There's a better fit in the organization here. Or candidly, sometimes it just the organization's needs and this person's superpower right now don't align. They're not necessarily what's needed. It's not good for the organization. It's not good for the other person too. So just what's some strategies? I'll give it to you, Mo, first to start. And I'd like Doxy to chime in here too. Is remedying this? How can we be proactive in being accommodating and getting realigning or transitioning team members in the organization? So Mo, I'll just start with you first.
Absolutely. Is screen share helpful here, or
if you want to, you can share your screen. I can add that in there. You want to share that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we look at what we call 4 different superhero types: commander, energizer, calculator, protector, right? And so one of the things is when we look at the characteristics of these individuals, it starts at the beginning. It starts in the recruiting process. So when you are out soliciting, when you are putting out your openings, what is the language that is there? Because oftentimes we are going to use language that means that a person is going to have to do one of 2 things. They're going to have to say, I don't fit that description, and so I should not apply, or I don't fit that description, but I'm going to apply, but I'm going to pretend that I have those characteristics. I can force it. I can make that happen. I can do that. I can be what they want me to be. That's where the dysfunction starts, right there, before they ever put in an application, before the recruiter talks to them, before anybody sees their resume. That's where the challenge starts. And then making them, they have to feel safe from the very beginning that I can be myself. Because what this is about is not trying to say, well, commanders we're going to put over here and protectors we're going to put over here. Each of these can serve any function. Each of these can be salespeople. Each of these can be managers. Each of these can be accountants. Each of these can be in any function, but how they do it, how they approach it is what's going to be different. How they activate their superpower. So the reality is, it's not just creating an open call and saying, yeah, everybody's welcome. It's actually having a space where it's clear that anybody and everybody can come in, and that we want you to accomplish something, but we want you to accomplish it in a way that is congruent with your super self.
So Doxy, thoughts on that? For those of you that are listening to this podcast, unfortunately, you can't see this amazing graphic, but you can go to Powernality and connect with Mo, and he can share with you more on that. But Doxy, when you hear that, especially beginning from the hiring process, from the beginning, what's your thoughts there?
Well, yeah, I mean that's exactly what I was thinking is the hiring process, because I know that David, and even you, Mo, I'm glad to meet you again for the first time tonight. That you two kind of dive into the emotional aspects of a culture and all those things. My question would be, not really a question, but it would be nice when boards or they put together panels to hire people with an organization, if they actually knew all of these things. And maybe some do, because of the tests that they, all the tests that potential employees have to take sometimes to get into the corporate level. But it's really fascinating to understand, or at least be introduced to these superpowers, because I absolutely agree with them. I agree that everything that Mo said is yeah, there's some people that they're introverts versus extroverts and so forth and so on. But how do we get them to get to that superpower? And that's number one. But going back to what I said earlier about athletics, see, athletics they've always had an edge on us from the emotional or psychological because of the physical. Meaning that if David, if you can't run a 4.40, you're not going to be a running back. Sorry, it's
Right.
just not going to happen. You see what I'm saying is that in athletics, there's something that we can actually, within our reality, we can actually see. We can see that, if you're 280, 300 pounds, you're probably going to be alignment.
Mhm.
And but then I've played sports and I've also coached sports and some of these players, we had an offensive guard that we used from time to time, like the refrigerator for the Chicago Bears a long time, because he loved to run the ball at 300 pounds. He loved it. Now that might have been his superpower, but his body just wasn't there for being a fullback. This is really, really good stuff that Mo put up here. And it's something that we need to tap into when we start talking about culture, especially in the areas
Mhm.
of mergers and acquisitions, because man, when one company buys another, you're buying an entire culture that might just not work. You never know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like what I see right here. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah. I think you bring up a good point, Doxy, and Mo, I want to get your thoughts here in a minute. If yeah, there's certain things you can measure on a sports team, and this is a little different, but I know, and working with Mo, I know he's done so much research and background in this and truly trying to get at it. There's a lot deep. We could spend hours, and Mo and I have talking going into this. But just on the idea of, I agree, Curtis, about this alignment. Like, how could we understand this better as a manager or a leader? Be aware, and I think number one, it starts with our own. Who do we know we can be? And I love the words that you have up here, Mo, because these are just helping us to look at these superheroes as you have here: this commander and energizer and calculator, protector. These words associated with them. So I think Doxy, these are some of the things that maybe you can measure or identify. So Mo, can you talk a little bit about that? About with the words that we're seeing on here on the screen about some of these ones, and again, how can we identify them a little better? To Doxy's point.
So yeah, Doc went into quite a few good things there. When it comes to identification, well, that's where they're going to want to get somebody who is trained in assisting with that. That's why they hire you. That's why they hire me. That's why they hire any of the Powernality certified trainers, because that's what they do. They go into an organization and help them make those identifications and create a strategy on how to approach that. And so while a lot of things like a sport may uh, while a lot of things like a sport may actually seem on the surface level to be just stats, we know from anybody who plays a video game or fantasy sports that just the numbers alone are not enough. That there is decision making that goes into the process. There is the human element that goes into the process. So you might have the physique, you might have the speed, you might have the weight, you might have the skill set in your fast twitch muscles, but knowing when to do what and what is your reasoning for deciding when to do what is what makes a difference. Because inside that person who is a linebacker, they have a temperament. And so the question is, what's going to be the best way to use them? The best way to use them is going to be based on their superpower, because there's decision making in everything. Even if all you do is sit on an assembly line and tap a button At some point, sometimes you have to not tap the button, you got to pull the lever to reject something. There and what causes you to do that? And how do you move beyond that? How do we make sure? And so that's why I say it's not just looking at these and saying, oh, the energizers will put those in sales, the commanders will put those in leadership. That's what it seems like from the outside, but the reality is all of them do something different. And so when we talk about M&A, well, now we're in a situation where you're talking about one culture attempting to absorb another culture because a lot of M&As have a big problem because there is such a culture difference. One movie that we like to look at and kind of pick at and show all the Powernalities in is a company, a movie that came out recently, and it's called BlackBerry, and it's about the BlackBerry and their rise and how they kind of got involved with things, but we see them being approached and almost being taken over and all the different things about how their culture changes over time. We see characters who are commanders. We see characters who are protectors. We see energizers. We see those interactions. We like to call them out in a fun kind of a way. When we deal with the corporate environment, it's more about understanding what you have, because the majority of people are going to create a culture that is a reflection of one of these Powernalities, and leadership is going to create another culture that is one of these Powernalities. And so when you say maybe Silicon Valley tech company, you're going to have a ton of calculators in there. Intuitively, that's what's going to be there. But in order for that company to grow, they're really going to have a much more well-roundedness to it. In an M&A, you may need to shuffle some people around. How will you know where to shuffle them around? It's not necessarily what their Powernality is. It's about how they can use their Powernality in a specific position, right?
Yeah.
Powernality doesn't determine the position. Your position is amplified. You are increasing the efficacy of an individual within a position by letting them use their Powernality. So, for instance, when we have the commander, the energizer, the calculator, and the protector, right? When you want to communicate with them, this is something that you can do just in basic communication. With the commander, show them what? The energizer, show them who. The protector, show them how. The calculator, show them why. Now, this goes into leadership. This goes into sales. This goes into team building. This goes into management, right? And we can get deeper into these and having an understanding of what this means. Why? Because the commander, what do they want? They want respect. They want things quick. They want facts, right? That's the showing them the what. But that's the opposite of what a protector wants. A protector doesn't want pressure at all. They don't really want to see new ideas. They need their goals to be very clear, and they want recognition for their achievement. So you show them how all those things are going to be done. It doesn't matter what position they're in. It matters who they are. Because at the end of the day, we place people because we think they're good at getting done what we want done. But really, anybody can get done what we want done if they have a specific skill set, education. But how they go about it and their capacity to excel is going to be determined by who they are on the inside. Otherwise, you're going to have a situation where there's mental anguish and they're not going to get along with people. They're not going to show up like you want them to show up because they're exhausted and trying to present in a way that's not who they really are.
Right. Yeah. This is a great perspective. And I think this just shows the depth that is needed. Like, Doxy, you're talking about that leaders and managers need to know. They need to know, number one, who they are very, very well in order to leverage their team. Because if you don't have that, then we get, like you were talking about earlier, dysfunction, right? we're running into this challenge because you don't even know who you are. How are you to
Right.
manage this team or see this in the organization or see where this is going? And I feel like we talked about this in our last episode, Mo, about intergenerational challenges we're seeing right now, where we've
Mm.
got the baby boomers leaving, and we've got this Gen X, and we got this millennials, and so we've got this really interesting dynamic in the workplace. Uh,
Mhm.
and I think that there's a loss of a seasoned understanding of some of these folks that have been around for a while, and you're still and some people that are still becoming and learning who they are. And I'm 50, and I think I have a pretty good sense of myself now. But if you asked me 20 years ago, I didn't have that same sense. And we've got some people in their 30s, some things, and now maybe you were even early 40s. I think that there's an evolution process here, but I don't think it's going fast enough for what we need.
Right. And you have generational zeitgeist, you have cultural zeitgeist that
Mhm.
has to do with powernality, right? So when you talk about boomers versus millennials, boomers culturally have thought like commanders because that was kind of what the culture said was appropriate for culture. Whereas millennials think a lot more like protectors. If you look just at generationally speaking, and you try and lump them all, if you want to
Mhm.
make a monolith out of them, then you can do that, right? Whereas Gen X, we were more energizers.
Mhm.
So you have these dynamics in there, but it really still comes back down to the individual. So, Doxy, imagine you're doing an M&A and both boards have a clear understanding of the powernality of that board. The board tends to lean, the board tends to skew, the board's decisions tend to be made in the way of a commander or of a protector, usually because of the number of people that are there in their individual powernalities, or the way of an energizer, the way of a calculator. And that may or may not be the same as the board of the organization that's being acquired.
Mhm.
And so, how do those boards talk? You got to get those boards to have an understanding so that they can express that then to the C-suite, so that the C-suite can then cast the vision properly to both organizations and begin this change in culture rather than trying to get my culture to be like yours or yours to be like mine. How can we have our cultures in a way that individuals are able to be who they are, but yet still stay on mission,
Mhm.
but yet still stick to the core values?
You, and I like that, Mo. In theory, everything you said is spot on, but in reality, what each board looks at, if there is a board, when one buying another, they look at the dollar amount.
Sure.
And then what they do is if one is acquiring the other, they after they acquire it, they start to either clean house or they implement their systems into that culture. And what really happens is that's where fear comes along, and it's really total chaos.
Mm.
And it's a fascinating uh, it's fascinating to sit on the sidelines and actually watch this, because that's exactly what happens. The promises and all these things that you're going to have a job even when we get acquired and so on, that it no longer happens. It just kind of in the reality, in the mix of things, the chaos does in fact happen during that process. We try to slow that down. We try to actually have the cultures talk to one another, but ultimately, whoever gets bought out, it's going to be a tough thing for them.
Yeah.
But like I said, I like what you're doing. I like what you're talking about. More companies, more cultures need to hear more about this, and actually, what they need to do is spend more money on this, helping grow the organization, not only monetarily, but for people, because that's exactly what That's what you're spending your dollars on anyway, is your people. It's your greatest asset. And yet some companies, believe it or not, well, you guys probably already know this, they think it's a liability because on the balance sheet, the P&L statement, that's where more of my cash is going to, is the people. Well, if we actually did this kind of thing, in more companies, especially in smaller businesses that maybe can't even afford it, I think that they would even grow faster, to be honest with you.
Leadership training, team building, all of that is, when we start talking about what's the cost of turnover, right? So what's the cost of new acquisition? And so that's why I said, what if they did this? Because we already know what the end result is when you just go in just by the numbers. We can predict it. I could write that script. I can look at the two companies. I can look at the number. I can say, this is what you guys are going to end up having to do. This is what you're going to end up dealing with. And we see this repeatedly. Exactly. And so if, definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and somehow expecting a different result. Right. So something needs to change. And if we have not taken the approach of looking at culture, so what we say is culture is by default or by design. And so you can't take two default cultures and think they're going to come together and be in harmony, because your individual default culture is already chaotic. You're just adding chaos and multiplying it by somebody else's chaos. So it will definitely help, because we do executive training. So you're talking about from the top down, leadership down. This is something simple enough that entry-level employees can grasp and get on mission and really accept the core values of the organization and just do better. That's increased productivity, increased profitability, increased efficacy, increased impact, increased influence. We already know these things work. They just have to be willing to see how this helps the bottom line.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Mo, there's so much more we could unpack here, Mo. So you're definitely going to come back. We got to have you back, Mo, and share.
Love to.
This is so powerful, because we've just talked. You've hit the nail on the head, Doc C. If you have business owners that understand this, and mergers and acquisitions, leaders, they understand who they truly are, their temperament and their way to be, and how to accommodate and integrate, everyone will win.
Absolutely.
The mission here. So Mo, I just want to say thank you for sharing this Powernality with us tonight. We look forward to having him back and giving us more on this. We lost Bill. He had to drop out tonight, but we're glad that Bill is here. So just thank you, Doc C and Mo. Final thoughts just as we wrap up, Doc C.
No, I was just I love it. If you help people grow in any shape or form within an organization, culture, whatever you want to call it, sports, it doesn't matter. That's the objective. The objective of any leader, their objective is to find someone to replace them, and that's because you're going to be replaced. So why not help everybody grow? That's my end result, and I think that's what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. Mo, final thoughts for tonight?
Man, I just agree. Personal development at all levels is going to make a difference. We want everybody to be the best version of themselves. Yes. Discover their superpowers, activate their super self. Yeah. That is going to benefit not only the organization, it's going to benefit the investors, it's going to benefit the customers, it's going to benefit the community, it's going to benefit everybody. So we really believe in this level of personal development, from leadership all the way through. And so, superpower yourself.
Thank you, Mo. I'll throw it out there. If you guys have listened to this, you're listening to this podcast, you're watching us, please leave a comment. We welcome your feedback. Reach out to any one of us. We'll reach anybody. We'll respond to you directly, personally. Doc C, Mo, myself, Bill. That we bring this because we want to share value and help you find victory in the work that you're doing. And so I'm just super excited for the continued guests and insights that are shared here. So I thank you guys. Thank you, Mo. Thank you, Doc C.
Thank you.
Until next time, you guys have a
Appreciate you.
great night.
All right, everybody. God bless.